Hi, and welcome back to my channel. I thought I would do a whip and chat while I work on this last part of this row for Train of Dreams. This was my 5th row. I have 4 left, 4 squares each, so I have close to 18 squares because parts of 2 squares. So anyway, I thought while I work on this, I would talk to you about something that I heard and decided to look up and see what the researchers say. And what I heard recently is there's no such thing as multitasking. But I consider myself to be the queen of multitasking, so I thought, what does this mean? Because does it mean that I'm not doing what I think I'm doing when I am doing multitasking? So the first thing that I found is in most cases, when multitasking is looked at, a lot of times it's looked at in a professional sense, multitasking in the workplace. And so a couple of the articles that I read showed how productivity is reduced if someone is trying to do 2 tasks. So before I go on to the workplace, let's talk about the 3 types of multitasking and why it isn't what you think of it. And I read these articles maybe 3 days ago, so I am just going to summarize them and maybe I'll link them in the description. I think I will do that. So the first one is multitasking is attempting to do 2 or more tasks simultaneously. Then there's also context switching, which is switching back and forth between tasks. And then there's attention residue, it's performing a number of tasks in rapid succession. So I guess I am not a multitasker. I am either a context switcher or an attention residue. Interesting terms, 2 terms I had never heard of until I read these articles a few days ago. So let's talk about why they say multitasking is a myth. Now, multitasking, the simple definition of multitasking is what doing 2 things does at once. Okay, multitasking is doing 2 things at the same time. Now, there's a box in this article that says multitasking, what doing 2 things at once does to your brain. Now, it said that your productivity can be reduced as much as by 40% if you are multitasking. Whereas I thought, and part of me still thinks, but I'll get into that in a moment, that my productivity is increased by multitasking. And this is where I mentioned that this particular article focuses on the workplace. And I understand that because I can't imagine too many jobs that don't exist where productivity is not key to whatever it is you're doing. I mean, even if you're working at McDonald's and you're on the you're working on fries, you have to make those fries so that they are the way that they're supposed to be made. So productivity. If you were an engineer, then the structure you're working on has to be exact. If you're an architect, so I understand that. But let's talk a little bit more about what true multitasking means. It says that according to this doctor, Dr. Meyer, they looked at 50,000 rescue time users, and they discovered that, he says that trying to split your attention between tasks that require effort and concentration means one or both of them will suffer. And again, I'm just going to quantify that we are talking about workplace. I am not in the workplace. I am doing my own thing. I am marching to the beat of a drum that I purchased, and am enjoying. So we're not talking about me trying to save lives or whatever. We're just exploring this because I may have to rephrase myself when I state what I am up to. So now It says, once you start to make things more complicated, things get messier, and as a result, there's going to be an interference with one or more of the tasks. Either you're going to have to slow down on one of the tasks, or you're going to start making mistakes. And then there's other health consequences, like it impacts your short-term memory, at least leads to increased anxiety, inhibits creative thinking, stops you from getting into a state of flow, and last but not least, causes more mistakes and less productivity. So, if you're in the workplace and you are multitasking, according to this article and the research that they've done, it shows that a great reduction of productivity can occur because you're constantly trying to focus on two activities at the same time. So, if indeed it is not possible to be a true multitasker, then what is context switching? And that's my new way to describe myself. I love this one, and I'll tell you why. Context switching is, well, first of all, it says what happens each time you bounce between each task. It says that our brains cannot do two things at once. They're not wired to do so. So what we think of multitasking is simply bouncing back and forth between tasks very quickly. Bouncing back and forth between tasks very quickly. So if like in my case, I am bouncing back and forth between looking at the article that I'm referring to and looking at my diamond painting. And then I place some drills and I look back at the article. So I am literally, in the most literal sense possible, bouncing back between the two tasks. So my first time ever hearing the term task switching. Context switching. Now there is a test, and I didn't take the test, so it just shows, according to the test, that if you are context switching, you will slow down in at least one, if not both, or more of the tasks that you are doing. Now, before I go on to attention residue, I'll give you an example of what I do. And I did find other articles to support this, so I feel pretty good about what I'm about to say. But I diamond paint and listen to audiobooks or Kindle text-to-speech. I listen to books while I'm making dinner or while I'm cleaning. Those are things that I'm doing when I say that I'm multitasking. I've been known to go to live streams and have an earbud for the live stream playing in one ear and the audiobook or Kindle text, I have to fix these drills, or the Kindle text-to-speech that I'm listening to in the other ear. Yeah, I do that because I'm not going to sacrifice my reading time for social media time. I'm just not going to do it. So I will be doing three things, okay? I will be working on a jigsaw puzzle, having YouTube on, and listening to a book. Now, I'm going to get into memory in a few moments, but the weird thing about my memory, and I wish I had a neurologist that I could say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I have a question, and this is where I'm going with this, is how is it that I am puzzling or diamond painting and watching YouTube and then reading all of the books that I read, and then I do this weird thing. A lot of people will read a book, write a review, read a book, write a review. Well, I don't do that. In fact, let me show you what I do. I think I can give you a quick example of how I do things. If I go to my to-do list, you see to-do right here. It's not caught up because this is, I didn't fill this in, but I will create these lists, right, on my spreadsheet. And the list will be whether I read a book, made videos, or wrote the review. This should be filled in because a lot of this is done. I just didn't go back to the spreadsheet to verify it. So the reason I'm showing you this is I may read, like If you notice the dates here, they go up to February 28th. Well, today is only February 12th. So these are the books that I will be reading, at least the books that I had planned on reading before when I created this to-do list. The list has varied because I have added, I believe, 3 books in this queue right here. So in this queue right here, I would check whether I read them, whether I made the videos, or whether I wrote the book review. The thing is, what I do is I will come in here and let's say select this block of reviews. Can you see that in blue? And I will make all of those videos one after another in one sitting. I will sit there for 3, maybe 4 hours, make all of these videos, edit them, get the thumbnails ready, get the Amazon links ready, and schedule them according to the date of release, which is right there. Can you see those dates? It's kind of blurry. There's dates there, right? So, like I said, we're going to talk about memory in a few minutes, but what I do is I will literally go a week or 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes a month later, and make a bunch of videos for books that I have read. And the thing is, I don't use notes. I'm just using what's stored in my brain cells. So while I am context switching, somehow or another, I am not sacrificing the quality of my reading time. And of course, you can't really say you're sacrificing the quality of diamond painting or jigsaw puzzles because those are hobbies. Those aren't work. They aren't life-saving activities. They're just something that I'm doing while I am switching back and forth. But like I said, I want to get to that in a few moments. So that's context switching. It's quickly switching back and forth between tasks. And I thought I read something. Oh, there we go. It said that all of this context switching takes its toll. We can shift our focus really fast. Sometimes it just takes 1/10 of a second. Yes, a person, and can you imagine if you had a stopwatch? The only way I can relate to you what 1/10 of a second is if you were watching a swimming competition or a running, like a race, say for the Olympics. That's when those 1/10 of a seconds come into play. So our brains can switch quickly. So super duper, these still are not straight. So super duper quickly. 1/10 of a second we can switch back and forth. Now, as far as people in the workplace, they found that these people were switching back and forth between activities every 3 minutes. But I think I'm one of those people that are switching back and forth between activities that 1/10 of a second. I thought that was really cool. Now, there's another thing called attention residue. And attention residue, they say, affects goal shifting and role activation. So it's deciding which one you're going to do first. Am I going to place these drills or am I going to look at the article? Am I going to reach into my reach over here and get my straightening tool because I frustratingly see that these drills are not as straight as I'd like them to be? Am I going to look down at that article? So attention residue is simply letting our brain determine which is the most important task that we're going to do at any given moment. I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, I really did. Now, I talked about multitasking in the workplace. Now, if I were, say, working, like one of my jobs was a legal secretary for the vice chancellor of the University of Illinois, right? If I'm working, and her name was Karen. If I'm working for Karen, okay, and I am, say, setting up her next flight because she traveled to different universities, I am not going to be playing an audiobook while I'm communicating with the travel agent or an airline. So I'm not talking about professionals. I'm talking about a hobbyist like me who uses my time to the best way that I see fit. I'm going to shut my light off because when your light is off, your light pad, that imperfection that you see doesn't really exist. So it just drives me crazy. So now, back to multitasking in the workplace, they say that people are spending 40% of their time looking at emails. 40%. Okay? Now, I have not been in the workplace for about 30 years. Okay? I went on disability decades ago. So I am just, like I said, I'm marching to the tune of the drum that I am beating. So I am okay. So we're not talking about multitasking in the workplace. We're talking about what I do to fill my time. So now, they talk in this article about the powers of single tasking, how it's less stressful, it allows you to focus more, or being more creative. And again, like I said, workplace, okay? Now, with that in mind, I'm going to shift this discussion to my next bookmark because I wanted to know professionally or research-wise, am I able to efficiently, and I know the answer that is reflective of me personally, but I wanted to see what facts could be proved if I would be able to multitask while I hobby. And so I found this cool article. Guess what the article is named? It's named 20 Things to Do While Listening to an Audiobook That Are Not Chores. Okay, we've gone past multitasking, context switching, and attention residue to doing multitasking or simultaneous activities on things that are not chores. Okay, now I feel a little bit more vindicated in the way I do things. So what are some of these 20 things? Knit. Guess what number 2 is? Do a jigsaw puzzle. Go for a long walk. Stretch. Sit on the beach. Color in a color. Sit on the beach. Color in a coloring book. Play with a fidget spinner. People watch. Go to an art museum. Apple picking. Work in a garden. Take a scenic drive. Take a bath. Work on a craft project. Dare I say diamond paint? So, I listen to the majority of my books on Kindle text-to-speech or audiobooks depending on how I get my ARCs. ARCs are advanced reader copies. I get most of my advanced copies as digital books. I stopped requesting physical books because I literally have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in there that I've read and don't know what to do with. So I get them mostly as digital books, but of late I get a fair amount as audiobooks. Plus I read a lot of series every single month, or should I say every single year. So I access audiobooks via my library. So I was able to find several articles that clearly state that for the hobbyist or the crafter, you can fairly well accomplish listening to a book while crafting. In my case, it's mostly jigsaw puzzles or diamond painting, but more so jigsaw puzzles. So that was refreshing, especially since I got beaten up when I learned that I'm not a true multitasker. I am more of a context switcher. Remember, a person that context switches can switch every 1/10 of a second. So just as I look at these drills, I'm going back to the article back and forth. So I've already said that. So that was fun. I love that article and a couple other ones like that. Then I thought, okay, I just showed you guys my not really well maintained to-do list because a lot of the things I do are straight from my memory. So while I may initially create a spreadsheet or a list, I really rely on my memory. So I wanted to find out if indeed I have an eidetic memory. Well, guess what? I really don't. An eidetic memory, and I am going to quantify that by reading the description of eidetic memory, is eidetic memory definition. It says everyone has use of eidetic memory to a degree. This is what it is. Eidetic memory is the ability to see an object soon after you look away. For most people, the image lasts mere seconds or less than 1 second. So it's like getting a snapshot with I'm summarizing or paraphrasing. Getting a snapshot with clarity and accurate vision remains unaltered, unchanged, etc. Okay. So now it says that eidetic memory is controlled primarily by the posterior parietal cortex of the. Okay, we're not going to get into scientific. But then the article goes on to talk about the difference between eidetic memory and photogenic memory or photographic memory. It's the terms are used interchangeably in this particular article. Now, it says very few people have a real photographic memory. Now, I remember watching this show, it was on TV maybe 20 years ago, where this detective solved crimes based on literally being able to dissect a scene down to the nth degree. And I know for a fact I don't have that type of memory. But I've got a very unusual memory in that I can read 10, 15, 20 books before I write a single review and then go back and review said books in a video and written format without notes. So I've got some kind of a memory here. But the article goes further to show that there are ways to improve a good memory. So I can stop saying, and will stop saying, I think I'm done with the letter R, that I have an eidetic memory. No, here's some right here. I just have a good memory. I thought that was really, really edifying for me to find out because, sometimes, especially somebody like me who is book smart or an erudite, I tend to have a know-it-all attitude, which is not a humble thing to admit, but I don't like it when I discover that I've been using the wrong terms like multitasking, the wrong term saying that I have an eidetic memory. Those are incorrect terms to describe me. I think what happens with me is part of it is, is natural born intelligence, genetically. I take after my mother, who takes after her mother. And they were both very, very smart women. And I take after them to the degree where school was easy for me. I graduated just after the age of 16. I had a perfect educational record. Never got less than 100 on anything. So I think I just have a little bit of inherited genetics there. But I think it's also with me, which doesn't make me any more special than the next person, because everybody is special in their own way. But what I think changes with me is I think some of the activities that I do enhance my memory. Now, I don't know how to explain that, because I remember one author said to me on Twitter, "Wow, Robin, that review was great. You must really have great notes." And I said, "Well, thank you very much for such an encouraging comment, but no, I rarely take notes. I just go by what I remember having read, or should I say, listened to." And the author was rather surprised. And I wasn't boasting because, humility is a very, very, very important thing for me to always try to keep in mind. I just think that over the years, maybe some of the activities that I've done in my life have helped my memory to become strong. So that leads me to this part of the article, which there are ways to improve general memory. And there's exercises, like it mentions the military method. That's one way. Practice with cards and objects. Learn to focus and eliminate distractions. Foods that boost memory. And then there's other ways, like if you want to see a psychologist or if whatever. I didn't employ anything in any specific fashion that work towards me having a good memory. I think it's just something that I came by genetically, and maybe some of the activities that I do enhance that. So I thought, I don't know, I was in the car with my husband the other day going to a doctor's appointment, and I just thought about these things, and I was reading these articles. I was meant to listen to an audiobook that during that drive back and forth to the doctor, but instead I read these articles because I wanted to know more about me and what I claim. And I don't want to make improper or proud, boastful claims. I just want to be factual, but also respect everybody within everybody's individual capabilities. So I am no better than John Doe or Mary Smith or Tom Jones. I'm just me who enjoys what I enjoy. And what I enjoy, sorry if I'm away from the mic, I'm getting another drill. What I enjoy is my books and my crafts. And now I did think when I got up during the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I said to myself, Robin, I want you to commit to reading and reviewing. Okay? But this is like my 5th year of book reviewing. And every time I set that goal, it doesn't happen. I read book after book after book after book. And then when it gets close to running out of scheduled reviews on YouTube or my blog, because I use the scheduler feature, then I say, okay, I'm going to sit down and make X number of videos. And, but yeah, I think of being more efficient by making my videos shortly after I read. But whether I make them immediately or weeks later, I'm not robbing the viewer or the reader of my book reviews, or the author or the publisher for that matter. I think I am being fair and giving that book or title or series the attention it deserves, because it works for me, And like I said, this is just me thinking about my capabilities and my contributions, but in no way does it disregard or disrespect anybody that does things differently or has a completely different method. Like, I belong to several reviewer groups, and it's pretty much 50-50. You have people who review every book as soon as they're done reading it, and then you have people like me who bulk review, who sit there and do 6, 7, 10 reviews at a time. It's pretty much split right down the middle. So we do whatever works for us, and it doesn't, like I said, I don't feel that I'm more qualified or better equipped than anybody else. I'm just doing what works for me. Now, is it fair for me to say go to a YouTube live stream and be listening to an audiobook or a Kindle text-to-speech book? Is it fair to the author that whose book I am reading, or is it fair to the host to whose video I am watching? Whether it's fair or not, it's just the way my brain operates. I may enjoy a live stream while listening to a book and working on a puzzle, because I'm not going to sit at any live stream for any host and just stare at the screen and not be productive in one way or another. Oh, it looks like I missed the letter R right there. I can't, because I find with me is if I am completely sedentary, guess what happens? I doze off. Yes, I do. I doze off. So I have to supplement whatever it is I'm doing in order to be able to focus. And so, yeah, I split my time when I am not like if I'm, okay, let me correct myself here. If I am binge watching YouTube videos, like I just found Rose in Anzai Country Life, a Ugandan woman who married a Chinese man and lives in the Chinese countryside. Her videos are 6 to 10 minute long videos, and it's mostly about her cooking. They cook the most amazing meals, but they live in a rural countryside in China. So like right now, I am binge watching that YouTube channel. I just can't get enough of Rose and Anzai. Well, if I'm watching videos like that, then no, I'm not listening to an audiobook or Kindle text-to-speech. Yes, I might be watching Rose and Anzai and working on a puzzle or diamond painting, but I'm not listening to an audiobook. But I find that if I'm watching, say, a YouTube live stream, there are huge gaps in conversation. And so, yeah, I like I said, I march to the beat of my own drum. I can't change. I'm happy with me. I like the skin I live in, so it works for me. So anyway, it's been about 30 minutes, and I try not to make these whip and chats, which are work in progress, any longer than 30 minutes. But I just thought I would share these things because I was curious, because I had just heard this on Thursday. I don't know if it was on the news or something, but I just heard on Thursday that there's no such thing as multitasking. So on Friday, I did some research, and that's what I'm talking to you about in this video. So I didn't get a heck of a lot done. I did. I got this part done. I got to get that little drill right there. I have to put that in. But I am going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to put on an audiobook, not an audiobook, a Kindle text-to-speech. And I do know what's next. And what is next is, I can tell you in one moment. The next book I am going to listen to is The Stolen Twins by Sherry J. Ryan. It's a World War II historical fiction. And then after that, Ruby Spencer's Whiskey Year, Isha Unscripted, and Best Served Hot. So the next book is from Bookouture, and then the following 3 are from Berkeley. So I have about an hour or so where I can listen to a book before it's time to get ready for my meeting today. But I want to thank you for watching. I hope you watch to the end, and I hope there's something here that helps you in some way and helps you to understand who I am as far as me splitting my time the way that I do. So thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.